What's the creepiest display of intelligence you've ever witnessed in real life? We were studying, and she recognized a young man from an anatomy textbook. She said it was from her 3rd grade math book. We didn't believe her, and made fun of her. So one day she showed up with that book. Same young man. Totally different pose and environment. Obviously some stock photos. She still works in medicine, but works with the police several times a year for super recognizer screenings, or whatever that's called. When we would go out, she would see someone and just go, "Ah, this guy was at the lake 4 years ago when we were there." We all just stopped confirming with those people because she was always right and it was always creepy. The wildest recognition I remember was a girl that she had seen in a grocery store in Bangkok when she was backpacking Asia 2 years earlier. Pastor I know has this ability, has to keep it quiet as it freaks people out. I knew a kid who had an intellectual disability. He was nonverbal and needed one-to-one support all day, every day. However, pull out a 500-piece puzzle. He puts it together upside down, as in, the pieces are flipped to the blank side, no imagery to fit together. Extremely fascinating to watch. Never seen anything like it. I've seen kids do this when the picture side bores them. The blank side is more challenging. Miriam. A friend introduced me to her at a party. She was a math major. She had gotten into a bet with her roommate to see who could memorize pi to the most digits. She won. By thousands of digits. My friend said, "Hey Miriam, do pi." Her eyes went glassy and she went 3,115,926,535. She went on for minutes. She might be cheating and be calculating it on the spot instead. Is that less impressive? Absolutely more impressive. Memory is just a small part of intelligence. Or making it up, unless someone is verifying as she goes lol. My husband grew up in a bad area. Bad family. High school dropout. BC school was so bad for people with learning disabilities. He grew up truly believing he was stupid. I'm a writer. And he would never read. Complained that he couldn't read. Not a lack of ability. But he apparently has that thing where you can't visualize in your head, but no word for it 30 years ago. And I didn't even realize that was a possible thing. He just told me he can't see the story like I can. So it doesn't make any sense for him. He found it difficult and pointless. Then, at 20 years old, he sat down and read a college chemistry textbook left at our house in one evening and literally taught himself chemistry. I was a gifted student with a full scholarship, and chemistry was where I got lost. I could not understand what I was seeing. I don't have to imagine with this book. It just explains. Easiest book I've ever seen. Aphantasia. I have it too. But I love reading fiction and hate non-fiction. Never had a problem with not being able to picture the story. Just wanting to know what happens next. Because of this I read extremely fast. When I was a kid my parents would quiz me on the books to make sure I actually read them. Very interesting to see the opposite. I did a little time. I ran into a guy in there that engineered a fight between 3 unrelated parties. That part wasn't the creepy part, though. Good enough. Really, 2 of the 3 fighting parties were not fighting people, and he got in the mix effortless. The creepy part was that in the roughly 1 minute before the fight kicked off, resulting in the block being locked down for 3 days. BTW, he explained to me point by point, and in close detail what the administrational response would be, exactly who would be involved, who would be written up, injured, reassigned to different blocks, etc. He did this so that a 4th party, not involved in the violence, would be caught up in cell searches with contraband. Which happened. At a ticket. That guy left the block with the 3 fighters, but never came back. He told me all of this stuff point by point like a grocery list, down to which guards would come, and what their moods and reactions would be. He was in the cell next to mine, and he just kept laying it out, right until they locked us in. Eater, here's a guy, https://www.explorer-clarion.com/local/2020/04/03/ long sentencing in Dunlap death case continued due to COVID-19-674396/ https www. explorer.clarion.com/local/2020/04/03/ long sentencing in Dunlap death case continued due to COVID-19-674396/ close bracket. My old cat, who was the eldest of 4 cats I had, was wicked smart. He was insanely clean. We had 2 large litter boxes for the 4 cats. He made the 3 younger girls copy his habits, and they used one litter box only for pee and the other only for poo. I swore up and down to my partner, who at the time didn't believe me. He could understand English, but when I asked sarcastically to get the kitten out from behind the drawer, he just looked at me, went to the drawer, had a conversation with the kitten, and she came right out. We had tried for hours. If my partner didn't see it with her own eyes, lol. My cat did the same. He's not wicked smart, that's my middle one, and he's evil, but we lost the kitten and turned the house upside, and my mom asked him, "Where's the baby?" as a joke, and he just looked at her and then walked away, leading her to a plant and pointedly stared into it. Kitten was curled up in the dirt. Working for a city in traffic engineering, we had a large map on a wall where we would place pins with colored heads to represent types of accidents from police accident reports. For example, pedestrian related, property damage only, death, etc. Instead of bringing the stack of reports and working out each pin and exact location individually, one legendary lady would go in and stick the pins from memory. This was not a small city. One engineer was incredulous and asked how she could remember so many. She became offended when he checked her work and found she got everyone right. I didn't witness it, but I believe him. And I can't imagine how she did it. I forgot for a moment that not everyone lives in a grid system, and was like, I could do that. Ash. Neighborhoods would throw me. If the city was Boston, that would have been incredibly impressive. I had a classmate once who could do complex equations in her head. She was asked to solve an equation of the whiteboard once, with working, but only wrote the answer. When the teacher asked her to show how she got to the answer, she just said, "I can't." Of course the teacher made her do a few more, and yep, alright. The scariest part is supposedly her sister was even smarter than her. I watched an interview with a guy who can multiply big numbers very quickly. He explains what happens in his brain is that he visualizes the numbers which turn into a pattern, and then the patterns overlay into a new pattern, which his brain then decodes as the answer. Pretty wild, from what I recall. Granted, there may be newer, more accurate analysis. I watched a documentary that was reviewing brain activation when doing mental math. Most extremely high achievers and processors of mental math activate the visualization portion of the brain while computing numbers in their head. Makes sense that what you're describing is what the researchers found. A guy I was friends with ended up working in a car yard. It wasn't a big brand one, just a small family owned second-hand car yard. Guy did okay in school, wasn't a genius, wasn't an idiot. I dropped in to visit him at work after he'd been working there for about 6 years, and his boss called out asking if he could remember a car and added the registration number. No description or anything, and my mate rattled off the car's details. The name of the person who traded it in, what they bought, and who bought it. By name, but phrased it as a question. "You mean the blue Toyota whatever, with the such and such? That so and so came in with etc." This had all happened about 6 months after he'd started there. He clearly found his place. For clarity, the car his boss was asking about had been traded/sold 5.5 years earlier, and no, not back quote creepy, like they're going to put you in a pit and make you put lotion on. Just a moment of realizing someone you'd known your whole childhood suddenly pulls a Rainman out of nowhere. Yes, he's most likely on the spectrum. It's probably why we were friends in the first place. I worked with a DJ who knew the station's entire catalog by heart. "Oh, you want to hear back quote please, Mr. Postman? That's CD 472, track 5. He was never wrong. And it made board.bine with him so much easier. Reminds me of the clip, caller, teens la cancionesta sun rieboco sun Nike, DJ, https://yow2 b/bq4c54rcj_k si =lzl7 bjmqduzo I love how you can almost hear the gears in the DJ's mind turning, mulling it over, and then wait a second. Maybe. And his uproarious laugh is fantastic. Not really creepy, but I noticed there must be something going on. I was on holidays in a Turkish wakeboard park. They have some dogs there, which were strays, but living there in the park now. Super friendly doggos. One morning, we wanted to get up a hill for the sunrise. When we stepped out, 2 of the dogs slept in front of our house. They woke up and immediately understood what we were up to. They lead the way up the hill. When we were up there, one of them was sitting down and staring into the sunrise with me. Nothing else. He just looked at the shiny orb in the skies. This dog was not led by food, companionship or anything. He was just there, probably admiring the sunrise. 2. Nothing a dull animal would be able to. I saw a video with a lady and her dog and she asked something like, "You want to go watch the fish?" And the dog was FN ready to watch the fish in an aquarium. But he had to put on his special clothing and hat, hoodie maybe, and then he sat in a little chair. She turned on music, and that FN dog just sat there and watched the fish. Pretty wild. Margaret, get my fish watching jacket. I'm going to the aquarium. I met 2 people with eidetic memory as far as I know. They both had the same habit of answering a question, pausing, looking upwards as if they were reading something in the air, and then answer. One I met was in the army. My first meeting with him. He noticed my last name and said, "Oh, that's Japanese." Paused, looked at the ceiling, and then started speaking to me in Japanese. I told him it was a Japanese last name, but I was Mexican American. Again, he paused, looked up, and then started speaking to me in Spanish. Later, he picked up quite a bit of German in just a couple of months. He was definitely a polyglot. I believe he also became Soldier of the Month 3 months running, but was asked to not do it again. The funniest thing was he had very little social graces. He was a very good looking guy and always smiled. People would approach him, but after a few minutes they would leave, looking at him like he was an alien. I have to admit, he could have been, but I still miss him. I believe he also became Soldier of the Month 3 months running, but was asked to not do it again. Congrats. But could you not? Worked with an Australian guy on Op Iraqi freedom in 2006. This guy was a comms tech and noticed every day around lunchtime Baghdad time the fiber cable link back to Australia would degrade, only 15 minutes at a time. He worked it out over a couple of weeks to sunlight in a Singaporean data center shining through a window onto a router with a failed cooling fan. Would overheat the router and increase the data error rate, slowing the data link. The royal mumfer died off my cap to you sir. Reminds me of a story my dad told me. There was a contaminant in the water supply. He examined it and found a specific chemical or something. He's a chemist that was given off only by specific frogs living in a specific region of our state. Guys drove out to check all the tanks in that area and sure enough, one had a broken lid. Tons of dead frogs in there. But were any of them now gay? The tank would have obviously shielded them from the space lasers. I know a guy who'd go up to women in clubs and say tell me your name and I'll tell you your postcode. He was a postman. Did it ever work? I'd be creeped out if a random dude remembered my postal code just by name and approached me with the fact he knows my general home location. Fits the post question quite well. I doubt it. He's married now and I hope a bit ashamed of it. Maybe he's married because it worked one time. I have an old friend who learned to play the guitar so that he could meet girls. He became quite good and he met his now wife. He always says that learning the guitar to meet girls actually worked once. My old cat Manus, over the course of a few days arranged gifts for the family among the bushes in our front yard. 3 mice were arranged in a line in the back row with all their heads facing north and 4 rats were arranged in a line in the front row with their heads facing south. One of the weirdest things I've ever had to clean up. I fear your cat was a witch trapped in a cat body. Aren't they all? Not really creepy, but a guy I went to undergrad and med school with went through an entire semester of upper level organic chemistry and missed maybe 2 answers. We had weekly 10 question quizzes where 6/10 was great. Tests would be curved where 70 or so was a ray. There he was every time. One person in the class got 100. Every week 10/10. He didn't seem to study much, and he liked his weed. Had highest score in our class on step 1 and step 2. Just effortless. I was never the greatest student, but I excelled in chemistry, getting perfect scores plus extra credit on nearly every test. An overachieving nerd in my class got angry one day when tests were handed back and I had again outdone him. He turned around and accused me of cheating. I told him I got high before doing my chemical homework BC. I thought it was fun and said maybe he should try it. This wasn't a personal witness, but was a known result of something that happened in Colorado back in the 90s. A cross-country runner from a high school in one of the small towns up in the foothills past Denver went missing. He did a standard loop around the town to train, and it included some of the foothills trails. It turned out he was killed by a mountain lion, and it was a full-grown, fully healthy tom that they found guarding the body. They obviously euthanized it, but after investigating the lion tracks they were able to see that it literally followed him on his loops. He'd typically do 4 to 5 and waited until he'd done a couple, so he was winded. It went against everything the state and wildlife/game departments had claimed for years. Now we can acknowledge it's extremely heavy mountain lion country, and at the time, there was an ongoing study to prove how high their population was towards parks and wildlife for the state. The official PR stance had been they're elusive. They're afraid of people and your pets. Only an old, sick or injured one would attack a human. And they stick to the deep mountains. When a fully healthy cat killed a 6 feet in shape 16-year-old, it really changed how people were perceiving the whole situation. The non-fiction book, The Beast in the Garden, goes into the study of how they proved the actual huge cat population by a few cool professors. Nowadays there's been hundreds of sightings on people's Ring cameras, and I myself had to stay cautious and aware when a few neighbors were posting video of them sauntering down driveways, napping in trees in their yards, or along bike paths, and hanging out under people's decks, especially when it would be dark in a parking lot that opened up to a tall grass open space where they were known to hang out. When you hear a recording of their unique chirping, it's a little chilling to realize how many times you've heard it if you spend time outdoors here. I was on a SARM trucking training retreat in northern NM and stayed for the more advanced training sessions. / 2 weeks total. I was the smallest person in the group, and after a few days the trainer pulled me aside and said, I don't want to worry you, but every morning when we come back there are mountain lion tracks following everywhere we've been the previous day, and they follow you specifically. He basically kept me with the group or a partner the entire time after that. He was doubly concerned when he learned where I live, at the base of a mountain range that's full of lions, and that I'm often out hiking at night. He suggested that I make a hat with big eyes on the back as a deterrent. I still haven't had problems so far, but they say that you don't see them coming. When I was a teen, was babysitting for special needs group of my church. Kid was drawing what seemed like random lines on a piece of paper with random numbers attached at each line, and a random red dot / circle in the middle. She gave it to me at the end of church. Thought it was cute. Had no idea WTF it was. A few weeks later I realized it was a map of the surrounding area with all the street and RV numbers. She was 5. Reminds me when I was working at a summer day camp. Had a school ager who could draw maps of countries from memory and loved to explain them. Probably could for hours, if I let him. Him and his brother had differing presentations of their autism. Friend's brother, he's an Englishman, a linguist, went with my friend to Norway for a conference. My friend went with to hang out and be a tourist. He didn't speak any Norwegian before he went. On day 3 he could read it and order at the restaurant and conduct their business in Norwegian. By the end of the week he was fluent. He told me that Hollywood-style universally detic memories are bullshit, but some people have specialized ones. In his case he can remember every single thing he has ever read, down to location on the page. He won't be able to tell you when he read it or anything like that, just the actual content. Conversely, he doesn't understand machines at all. Friend found him one day making coffee in the frying pan he'd just made eggs in because he couldn't figure out the coffee machine. My sister was getting perfect grades through elementary school, all 100s and A+. I kept telling her next year will be harder. Nope, all the way through high school literally perfect. Valedictorian senior year and 2330 out of 2400 on SATs. Accepted to all Ivy League schools and chose Princeton. Guess I was wrong. What is she doing now? Watched someone in Vegas win hand after hand of poker. Stopped after maybe 20k in winning and said I'm bored. This was someone I knew well who was a math genius. I asked why he didn't gamble all the time. He said it doesn't interest me. I could win all day every day. Please note he worked in finance and made crazy money. Just interesting to watch someone not want to win every nickel they could. I worked with a guy who could look at a complex corner where sheets of drywall intersected, then cut a 3D piece of plastic molding without measuring/drawing anything that would slide onto each piece, perfectly covering each corner. Maybe it was a practiced skill, but he generally struck me as highly intelligent with off-the-charts spatial reasoning skills, which I feel like are underappreciated on the spectrum of human cognitive abilities. My son at the age of 4 to 6 could add letters. He was horrible with English. He's got severe ADHD. Well, he comes in the living room and says, "Dad, guess what H plus P is?" I said Hewlett Packard. No. He can add the numeric values of the letters AZ and AZ. 1 to 50 to uppercase 4, 1 to 26 and lowercase 27 to 52. He still adds words up and gets distracted reading. He reads numbers as words and words as numbers. It's strange, but really cool to see. Teach him the binary system and see if he becomes a computer. Not only that, make sure he learns hexadecimal as well. And then number theory of all numbering systems. Binary, ternary, quaternary, etc. Kid could jump into quantum physics or quantum theory if he likes it and be a little prodigy. What's funny is that we as humans use the base 10 decimal system, numbering in tens, 100s, etc. because we have 10 fingers on our hands. If we had 8 fingers, 4 digits per hand, we would most likely use the octal base 8 counting system. Like Rocky in Project Hail Mary, who has 3 fingers on each appendage and uses base 6. I never thought how arbitrary due to evolution our use of base 10 was till I read that book. Gene Simmons picked my accent as not only Australian, but Melburnian specifically when I'd only said about 3 words to him. Australians can't even do that.